For today, we thought we would look at a sutta related to monastic training, but of course, extremely valuable in life in general, in terms of being easy to get along with, trustworthy, able to learn, and also receive instruction, which basically means you have a chance to develop on the path. And the importance of this sutta really is to point out, I think, or one of the important lessons it points out is that being easy to admonish or easy to teach is an absolutely fundamental quality for one that wishes to progress in the Dhamma, particularly in monastic life, of course, because in the beginnings of our monastic life, we are just learning the ropes. And beginnings can mean the first 10, 20, 30 years. You know, in a sense, if you think you've got it sussed, there's probably a problem. I think Jenny said to me in the car, actually, oh, I'm still learning. I said, well, the fact that you're still learning shows, no, what did she say? I've got a lot to learn. I said, the fact that you've got a lot to learn shows that you are learning, you know, because it's this perception that there's a sort of trajectory, right? It's not like there's a destination. We can always learn more. Even if we're fully enlightened, I think we can still learn more, because we can still learn how to relate to a person more skillfully and effectively. Even the Buddha was learning on the job. You know, he messed up, didn't he?
Oh yeah, he messed up big time a couple of times.
Yeah, he did. So we can allow ourselves to mess up, but the main thing is we should be willing to learn from our mistakes and also invite, not only receive, but invite instruction and correction. And I do think that applies to anyone at any level of training, but it's also particularly for one beginning the training. And I think this is relevant to our community at this stage, as we have new people joining, and there's a lot we all have to learn together. But of course, making the transition into robes is also a very big step. I think maybe this will speak to Tristan as well. I'm sure you already have many of these skills. I can tell that you will and that you do. But I think it's something that we'd all do well to develop in our lives. So, mystery over. It is the Anumana Sutta, number 15 in the Majjhima Nikaya. So it's one of the very important suttas. All the suttas are important, but I have heard people saying if you don't have much time, go for the first 10 or 20 suttas in the Majjhima Nikaya to give you a really good foundation. And then you'll probably be so addicted that you want to continue. So
maybe do the first one last.
Yeah,
that's true. Really complex.
Yeah, number 1, try and do it last. That's really true, actually. Go from number 2 to number 10 and see how you go. And then just open the book, and if something speaks to you, you know, just enjoy it. And if it doesn't, skip along. You don't have to take it all in. There might be things that work and things that don't. So today we thought we'd do this sutta and read out a little bit. It is about 3 pages long, 3.5 pages. So how much should we read before pausing? Perhaps down to... Well, perhaps down to here or so. It'd be good if we can finish. Okay. I think it gives an overview, but we'll see how we go. Yeah. Right? We'll just see how we go. I think over the years that we've been doing it, we've found that it is good to read a certain amount before talking, otherwise you don't get anywhere.
You just talk about the introduction of where they are and how it's
yeah,
where the deer park is.
Exactly. You can get into a lot of geographic and political history.
Well, the archaeological digs and
yeah. Oh, good. All sorted? We had someone at the door. That never happens really, but anyway. Nobody wanting to come in for the sutta class. All right, here we go. Would you like to start or shall I?
Well, maybe you start.
Okay. Thus have I heard. So these are the words of the Venerable Ananda relaying the teachings that he's heard. On one occasion, the Venerable Mahamoggallana was living in Bagha country at Sumaragira in the Besakala Grove, the deer park. See, all good monasteries are called something or other grove. There he addressed the bhikkhus thus. So, you know my style. I'm going to change the word bhikkhu to monastics on occasion, and on other occasions to community, to make sure we all feel included. Friends, monastics. Friend, they replied, And the Venerable Moggallana said this: friends, though a person asks thus, let the Venerable One admonish me, I need to be admonished by the Venerable One, or by the Venerable Ones. Yet, if they're difficult to admonish and possess qualities that make them difficult to admonish, if they're impatient and do not take instruction rightly, then their companions in the holy life think that they should not be admonished or instructed. They think of them as a person not to be trusted. Very interesting. And I will just pause and go back to the first footnote, which is to describe the word admonish. And in the footnotes, it actually says that it literally means to be spoken to, but it's implied that that means to receive exhortation and instruction. Okay, so it literally means let the Venerable One speak to me. I need to be spoken to by the Venerable Ones, but really spoken to in a way that exhorts me and instructs me. Yeah. So not just outright criticism or, accusation is actually the word Bhante Sujato used, which I'm not very fond of. It may be sometimes, but I find that quite a loaded word. Admonishment is okay in English. I think it works. But it's really making oneself open to be spoken to and actually seeking to be spoken to in a way that could be, that could enable one to learn, right? And develop the qualities the Buddha's advising us to develop. So then we'll go through the qualities that make one difficult to admonish. So what qualities make one difficult to admonish? Here, a person has evil wishes or bad wishes and is dominated by evil wishes. This is a quality that makes them difficult to admonish. So that's about intention, isn't it? And motivation too. Number 2, a person lauds themselves and disparages others. This is a quality that makes them difficult to admonish. Just thinking out loud here that we can sometimes do that mentally. Have you ever noticed that? That person did this. It's really not right that they did. They should know better. They did all this, training somewhere, and I don't do that. Have you ever noticed?
Oh, yeah.
I've heard that go on in my mind. And maybe if we're honest, we might not do it publicly, right? I'm great, you need to learn from me. But maybe we do it later on to ourselves. It's really judging, isn't it? Really judging oneself and others, and judging oneself rather favorably against others, as if we could judge.
Of course, we always feel that we are right and everybody else is wrong.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Like we measure everyone by our standards.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't do that, so they shouldn't do that. Which is sometimes okay to a point, I think, because sometimes you would think, okay, in this situation, is this behavior appropriate? Would I do that? Could I imagine why I might do that or when I might do that? Would the people I trust do that? Would my teachers do that? It can be a kind of yardstick, I think. Like in the Metta Sutta, it says that the wise would later reprove. Let one not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. So you can kind of say, well, would that be approved by the wise, that behavior? But then if it leads to disparaging another, I think it's too close to self-view. Maybe that's why you're actually seeing things in terms of a person being better or worse, whereas really what we're talking about is behaviors.
And the whole point of this sort of admonition is to see you where you have self-view,
Right.
to learn to let go of
Yes.
that.
Yeah. See how it makes us suffer. It's really when the self-view arises or gets damaged, isn't it, that we suffer. It's like, the shiny view that I had of myself and that I tried to put in someone else's mind has been destroyed.
And that never works. Other people always see
they see through it. Yeah, they really see through that.
They think more about themselves anyway. Everybody thinks more about themselves than about everybody else. So don't worry too much about what other people think of you.
Yeah. We become the center of our universe, don't we?
Yeah.
Well, we are, really, but to varying degrees. So we have evil wishes, we have lauding oneself and disparaging others. And number 3, if you want to make notes, a person is angry and is overcome by anger. This is a quality that makes one difficult to admonish. So here I'm just reflecting that this is not a fixed thing, is it? It's not that a person is either angry or not angry, but at the time that one's angry, maybe that is not a time that one can be admonished.
That was that other sutta that we looked at. It's about the timing of admonishment. Yeah. It's like when somebody's angry, don't try to tell them what to do, because it's just not going to go in one ear and out the other.
It's going to make them more angry.
And going to make them more angry. So wait till they're a bit calmer.
Yeah. Again, a person who's angry and resentful because of anger. This is a quality that makes them difficult to admonish. And we'll go through in a lot more detail. We'll go through some examples, hopefully, like your examples. We want your examples from your workplace, from your family, whatever you feel able to share. Number 5, again, a person is angry and stubborn because of anger. I'm right. Oh dear, you have to laugh because I'm sure it's all too familiar. Again, a person is angry and they utter words bordering on anger. This is a quality that makes them difficult to admonish. They just can't hear anything. Again, a person is reproved and they resist the reprover. This is a quality that makes them difficult to admonish. I like the next one. Number 8, again, a person is reproved and they denigrate the reprover. So they don't like being reproved. Reproved is a good word too, or admonished. And they say, oh, this person's terrible, this person is like just out of their mind. How could they not see how wonderful I am? All my hard efforts. And yeah, so you put down the person because you don't like the message. Shoot the messenger, right? Yeah. Like if somebody who's your friend says, okay, it's a good idea to ordain bhikkhunis or something like this, like, maybe you should move forward in the Sangha, and they're on your team, well, okay. But if it's someone you already don't like very much and they say that, that's a very monastic example, a very bhikkhuni-oriented example. Anyway, I should just read it. Number 9, again, a person is reproved and they counter-reprove the reprover.
Okay, yeah. No, it's you. It's not me.
Well, you did such and such.
Oh, it's you. Really?
I had a piece of, you had too much chocolate.
You had far more than me.
But last week you had a whole bar and I couldn't even find my chocolate.
Okay, maybe we'll stop.
All right. This is good too. This happens all the time. Number 10. Again, a person is reproved and they prevaricate, lead the talk aside, and show anger, hate, and bitterness.
What's prevaricate?
They sort of avoid it and start talking about other things and bringing other things in and try to sort of deflect it in a way. Is that right?
It's a good strategy.
It's what certain politicians do, isn't it? I think this is the politicians' method, because they ask them a question in, say, Prime Minister's question time or whatever, or Prime Minister's question time. Are you going to do something about social welfare or housing? How are you going to provide good healthcare to all the citizens? And they just waffle on something totally different and they never get to the point of answer. And if anyway, it's bad, isn't it? Again, a person is reproved and they fail to account for their conduct. That's an interesting one. So we're supposed to be able to account for it, know ourselves so well that we know why that came, how that arose in us.
Sometimes it takes a little while.
It does.
To think about. And so you go back and you go, oh, yeah, actually they're right. Yeah.
But what I like here is that there seems to be saying that we should still account for it later. Because you know how when things are just sort of pushed under the surface and never really addressed, and then they sort of build and then this is very
explode.
Good. Yep. All right. So Diana's saying prevaricate means evade. So that's exactly.
Okay. Thank you very much, Diana.
What they do
for all us non-native speakers on this chat,
including me. Again, a person is contemptuous and insolent. This is a quality that makes them difficult to admonish, isn't it? Again, a person is envious and avaricious. Anyone not know what avaricious means? Maybe Diana could be our avaricious dictionary. You don't know? Yeah. I'm not 100% sure either. I think it might be related to kind of covetous.
Sort of the same as envious.
Yes. Avaricious or miserly, something. Wanting what someone else has. Let's see what Diana has to say. Greedy. Benjamin, thank you very much. Greedy.
Thank you.
So it is a bit like covetous, I guess. Again, a person is fraudulent and deceitful. By the way, people are more than just this. We're just talking about what makes them difficult to admonish. Again, a person is obstinate and arrogant. This is a quality that makes them difficult to admonish. And I like the next one. We might pause at the next one. Again, a person adheres to their own views, holds on to them tenaciously, and relinquishes them with difficulty. This is a quality that makes them difficult to admonish.
Actually, they all sort of have to do with wrong view,
isn't it?
And holding on to wrong view.
Right.
We don't like to let go of that sense of self there. Right. That's our identity in there.
Which might be why we don't like to take admonishment, because it's going to challenge what we think we've sussed out already. We think we know already. We think, we don't want to be told there's something we haven't learned or seen or something like that, because that, affects our self-view. I think that's right, actually. It's because the view and the sense of self are just so close, aren't they? I mean, if you think, what is the sense of self? Most of us kind of identify, but at least know intellectually that our body's not self. But how we think about the world, how we view the world, I mean, that we've cultivated and honed out quite carefully. Isn't it? Because nobody thinks they're wrong. Nobody holds a view that they think is wrong. You only hold the view that you think is correct. So when someone else tells you that, hang on, there's something you're not seeing. All these things seem to be defense mechanisms, don't they?
Yeah, they are.
To kind of repel the other person and like, no.
Defend the self, that view we have of ourselves, of who we think we are.
Holds on to them tenaciously, relinquishes them with difficulty. If you think about it, that's going to block stream winning. Because the stream winner is one who's attained to view, dittipanno, which means that they actually have right view. Their view is turned around.
Yes.
So maybe we open up for a few questions already, or a few examples and things before we continue, but I'll come to the chat. Sometimes we're holding a view that we're used to and do not really think about it too much. Yeah, it's so much a part and parcel of who we think we are and the way we move around in the world that we don't even notice it's a view, right? It's like if you've always been wearing glasses, you think that things are that sharp and that clear. But if you remove the glasses, you'll realize maybe, they're not. Or you're wearing red glasses, you think everything's red. You just presume that. So to actually suddenly have them removed, you wouldn't know that you had them on until they were taken off, right? Yeah. And I guess that's all of us. That's why Ajahn Brahm says that real insight, deep insight, is a shock. It's not something you know already. It's something you don't know. Something you haven't seen. Yeah. We can think we get it intellectually, but we're still not seeing it. It's parts of existence we still take to be self, or take to be permanent, or not suffering. We still hope there's some place that's not suffering.
Yeah, when somebody points out to us that view that we haven't actually, that we're holding on to, that we're so used to, it's always there. So it's sort of in the background all the time, but we don't see it because it's always there. And then somebody else points out to us and we're like, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
It can't be.
Right. It's almost like it might be worth taking on different views to a point, of course, aligned with the suttas as far as we can, but almost worth sort of trying them on trying a particular lens on and noticing if that lens leads to more compassion, more peace, more kindness, and the virtuous qualities that are there to be developed. If that doesn't work, try on a different view. Because a lot of the views in the Buddha's day were like views such as that there's no result of karma. So you can go around, and literally there was a teacher saying you can just murder everybody, reduce them to a pile of flesh, and there'll be no consequence of that action. I mean, don't try the action on, but try thinking try thinking of the world in terms of there's no consequence to my actions. You'll probably become more careless. When you think that there is a consequence to your action, then you'll take a lot more care about planting the right seeds for the results you want to see. Right? So it's a wholesome view, even if you don't know that there's a consequence to your actions yet, it still can lead to more virtue. Yeah. Are there any comments or questions so far, things to share? Because it would be very interesting to hear if anyone has a sort of direct relationship with any of these things that maybe they've experienced in themselves. Usually in themselves is the best, but maybe in others also. Maybe you've tried to give admonishment to somebody and it's been really painful because they just haven't been open. Maybe you made a mistake in giving admonishment at the wrong time or something like this.
So this Sutta doesn't seem, I don't know if how it continues.
Yeah,
but
we don't really know how it continues yet. It's a mystery.
Address is like the attitude of the admonisher. And if they admonish with like a lot of love and kindness, it's much more likely to be heard and understood.
Yeah.
And if they have anger, they're probably nobody's going to listen to them.
That's really true. Yeah, it's really true. Although I think there's another sutta that says even if that's the case, it doesn't matter actually, because we have to look inside ourselves. And then there's someone with a hand up, Diana's got a hand up. Yeah, it doesn't really address that in the sutta because I think it's more about training. But I think that's very true. So let's come to Diana. Let's see what you'd like to share. Hi.
Hi. Is that an Easter bunny behind you?
Actually, no. It's a squirrel from Sweden.
Oh,
it's offered by a very sweet guest who's coming back, and it meant a lot to her, the squirrel.
Easter squirrel.
It's a very sweet squirrel.
That's really cute. But that's not why I raised my hand. I thought it was interesting that before they start listing all the qualities, it says that if someone is difficult to admonish, then they will be thought of as a person not to be trusted.
That's a good point. Yes.
You want to speak to that?
I think that if you try and admonish somebody for several times, it's like, and they don't come back to you later saying, oh, you were actually right, or I didn't behave correctly, and they behaved with a lot of anger or whatever. You don't tend to like not really want to engage with that person again, and you're not. I don't know about the word trusted in there. What to make of that?
Well, it kind of suggests that being able to admit you're wrong makes you trustworthy.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Because everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that would make a lot of sense because I think it's something about truth, being truthful.
Yeah.
To me, it's like a sort of sense of integrity. Like for me, it's not about whether a person does or doesn't get angry, but or jealous or whatever it might be, but more that they know it and they're honest to it. More that they are able to see that and account for it. And then I feel that they're working with it. And so then I feel I can trust that there's a process happening that's useful. And then it's worth me investing in this person because they're actually able to learn. And the Buddha actually says in another sutta that if a person can't be admonished, then they're basically dead in the training. They can't be trained. which is, I think there's one way it said they're like a dead horse, isn't it? It's like, it sounds really awful the way it's put, but it's like, if somebody just, I mean, if you think about it, there's certain people in your life that it's worth giving advice to. There's other people that it's going to be a waste of your time. You're going to be exhausted at the end. It's not going to get anywhere. It's just going to lead to an argument, and they're not going to change. I mean,
you try to talk to them for hours, and all that happens is that you get drained, and it's not really working.
Because if somebody doesn't want to hear it, then you can't force that on anyone, can you? So I think in a way it's the Buddha's own compassion for how and when it's useful to admonish, so as to not I think actually that's a large part of it, because there's another sutta that sort of makes that clearer, that it's actually a teaching to the monastics who are training people in many ways, so that they don't kind of put energy where it's not worth putting energy. I mean, I spoke to somebody today and they were saying that there's a particular client of theirs that they have to help with mental health, and that person takes several hours to help because their situation is so difficult. So they have to have one caseworker, and the rest of the team have to work with many, many people, but that person needs their own person for several hours. So they have to rotate because it just takes so much. And quite often it's not helpful, but at least it's helping them not go into prison or something like that. So it's like, it just takes more energy. And if you're bringing up a whole community, then I think it's you have to be kind of practical sometimes as to how you.
Yeah, because if you're like in a monastic community, at least in my experience, that if you only have one who's like really difficult, well, everybody else is just fine, but it brings down the whole atmosphere of the whole community, and it brings down the whole. So you have to, and says like, well, maybe here I cannot teach you, and maybe this is not the right place for you. Maybe you have to find another teacher that, because you also need to have a sort of faith in the teacher, and have a respect for the teacher, because otherwise it's not going to work. And that's for everyone. It's not just in the monastic communities. Like there's other suttas that speak about that it's really important to have a respect for the teacher and for the teachings, because otherwise you're not going to listen, and you're not actually going to take the steps necessary to practice in the teachings. So that's a very important thing.
I think in any relationship, respect is fundamental, isn't it, to the success? I'll just come to the chat and then we'll come to Mel, yeah? I'm not sure which was first, but I missed the chat, so it might have been there a while. Perhaps it also has something to do with vulnerability. If you're willing to be admonished, you're really entering the scary zone of non-self. Definitely, and that's part of what a major part, you could say, the whole thrust of renunciation, right? What are you renouncing? You're renouncing, first of all, the superficial things, like the things you attach to as part of your physical identity, your worldly identity, your status in society, the sense of self that comes around, I'm good at this, I'm good at that. You look like everyone else, except usually there's only one of me, but look, see, we all look the same.
We double up.
Yes, and that's in a big community, you all look the same, you see. Different size of nose maybe or something. And then later you start relinquishing your desires to do this, to do that, to do it your way, your preferences. I like this food, not that food. What you want to wear, obviously. You only get a robe and
it might be really easy. You don't have to stand half an hour in front of your wardrobe to choose, like, what shall I wear today?
Or in front of the mirror.
You just have this one thing, and that's what you wear.
Yeah. It's just a matter of whether it stays on your shoulder or not.
Yes.
And then, we start letting go of more and more, but we have to feel safe enough first, and that we have enough support. But then gradually we can let go of aspects of the self in our meditation, right? First of all, it might be the gross pains, fussing around with them, then the feelings in the body a little bit more, going to the mind, going to the breath, etc. So scary zone of non-self, and little by little. And by the way, when we talk about trust a teacher, they don't have to be perfect to deserve your trust and respect. I think we can all trust and respect each other for various strengths, but the general attitude should be one of trust and respect. So come to Mel. Hi.
Oh, hi, Venerables. Yeah, thank you. I just love the way that I've come to this topic on the day that I'm being invited to do better in this area.
Oh.
So I thought I just was cool to share a little bit on my personal experience. Just with my adult sons, I have a habit of telling them what to do or suggesting that they do something. And it's really being drummed into me that that's just annoying. One really gets quite angry. And the other one has started to tell me, or rather point it out to me very generously, point it out to me every time I do it, because it's so habitual, I can't help it. So I'm starting to notice it. And I've been thinking about it quite a lot today, and I'm just reflecting that it's not that what I'm saying isn't helpful, it's the way that I'm putting it across that's not being well received.
Yeah.
So I think my practice is to turn it into a question or an invitation.
Yeah,
that's what I think I've come up with, because nobody can get cross, can they, if you say, would it be a good idea if?
Yeah.
Or have you thought about, or something that's a bit open-ended, which is less of an instruction, and more of just an invitation. I don't know how it's going to work, but that's what I've come up with after today. I don't know what your thoughts are on that at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to share it because it's really topical.
Brilliant. I think that's great if it's a question, because it's giving them some agency, isn't it, to sort of decide for themselves. And then they might see it as like, oh yeah, that's an idea. Mom's sharing an idea, but I'm not being like forced to do it. So let me see for myself if that kind of resonates. I think that's a very nice way to put it.
Yeah, I think sometimes, especially with younger or teenagers or whatever, you if mom says something, you go, no. I was going to clean up my room, but now you're saying it, I'm not going to do it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's the case as well, but you could try and have a discussion as well and say like, well, okay, like I would appreciate this, but you told me last time that you don't really appreciate like it if I say that. So what would be helpful for you, or how can we work together in this way better, and what would you suggest?
Yeah, what would you suggest to get this solution?
Yeah, so
that
we have
would be good for us both.
And so we have a sort of harmonious relationship, and
yeah, and then again, you're putting it in their hands, and rather than you giving a solution, it makes them feel they could come up with something. It's almost like making it that you're another person to be considered, actually.
Yeah. So there's also this thing about like when children are very young, they learn where the boundaries are, and they have to be told what. But of course, at some point they start to rebel instead and finding their own kind of way in life. And then it is this period where you slowly have to start letting go yourself as well, which is difficult for a mom. But it's also a learning curve for you in that sense.
Yeah, super. Let's get on with the sutta. So we do cover the kind of more nuanced parts, which I guess are coming up, maybe. And then we'll continue opening up. I really love this, actually. I'm getting quite into this. All right. So we've done the view. And then we've got, okay. So it just concluded with friends. These are the qualities that make one difficult to admonish. There's 16 there. So the next part, friends, though a person does not ask, let the venerable ones admonish me, I need to be admonished by the venerable ones. Yet, if they're easy to admonish and possess qualities that make them easy to admonish, if they are patient and take instruction rightly, then their companions in the holy life think that they should be admonished and instructed, and they think of them as a person to be trusted. So you can see from this that being admonished is a good thing. It's supposed to be like a very welcome thing, a positive thing. So even if someone doesn't ask you, they still will receive the admonishment if they make themselves worthy of it, in a sense. So what qualities make a person easy to admonish? This is very easy. Here, a person has no bad wishes and is not dominated by bad wishes. This is a quality that makes them easy to admonish. So it's basically the opposite, but I'll read through it anyway, because then we can check whether these things are there or not. A bhikkhu does not laud themselves or disparage others or a person. They're not angry nor allow anger to overcome them. They're not angry or resentful because of anger, not angry or stubborn because of anger, not angry and does not utter words bordering on anger. You can see there's a lot about anger here, 4 about anger. So that is really not a great mind state in which to receive admonition.
That's often what happens. If somebody is like, the first thing that happens is this anger coming up, and there's nothing you really can do about it, but you can become mindful of it and aware. It's like, oh, hello, sense of self. I can see you.
Right.
You don't like being told off.
Right. And for the other person to realize if somebody's angry, don't bother. Just don't bother, because it's only going to make the person more and more upset. And maybe in a way, this is like a sequence. I'm just wondering. Because if you don't do that, then they resist the reprover, they denigrate you, they counter-reprove you. It gets worse and worse and worse, right? It just builds up. You're doing this, yeah, but you did that. The whole thing just builds. So maybe it's a good sign to just step back. You're going to waste your energy and get burned. So other qualities that make them easy to admonish: they are reproved and do not resist the reprover. That's a good one. I've heard from people who do this, even though they know that the admonishment is wrong, but they say, okay, yes, thank you. And then later they go and think about it. And if they find that the person was wrong, they just say, okay, so they were wrong. But at least I had a chance to check whether they were right. And sometimes you might find a trace of truth and you can say, oh, there was something in that. Yeah, that I wasn't seeing. I remember doing that once. And actually, there was nothing in this case, there was nothing to admonish me for. I'm not saying there never is, but I basically wrote a letter to someone who was a friend. And I said, hello, Choc. Because in Derbyshire, you go, hello, love, hello, Choc, hello, Doc. And it's like affection. And they wrote back, you called me Choc. And it was just total anger. Like, you're like this, you're like that. And I wrote back and said, they said, you should really take a good look at yourself. Because I think in that culture, that meant something really bad, actually. And I explained it didn't. I explained it was affection, it was this and that. But I said, but anyway, I'll go and have a look at myself and see if there might be something in what you say. And then they completely came over it and wrote back, I'm really sorry. I didn't realize, blah, blah, blah. Actually, you're really inspiring. But I did have a look at myself. I thought, is there this thing? And then I found, actually, no, I really did just mean to reach out to them. But I also kind of figured I better be careful when reaching out to this person, because this is a sensitive thing. Obviously, like maybe they've had some...
Or reaching local slang. Using local slang.
Yeah, it was my local slang, but not in the wrong context.
Like this 2 days, she called me dear.
Yeah,
so I had to laugh. True. It's like, oh, that's very British.
Yeah, I didn't realise. It's just become very Anna-Camperish, I think. I never used to do that. Old ladies do that, don't they?
Yeah.
All right, dear. Would you like a nice cuppa? But yeah, I do that. Anyway, luckily you didn't get angry about it.
So it was very hilarious.
All right. All right. So other qualities, they are reproved, but do not counter-reprove the reprover. Do not prevaricate, lead the talk aside, show anger, hate, or bitterness. They do not fail to account for their conduct. They are not contemptuous or insolent, not envious or avaricious, that means greedy, not fraudulent or deceitful, nor obstinate, nor arrogant. And maybe the most important one, a person does not adhere to their own views or hold on to them tenaciously. Because anyway, we're not stream winners. And they relinquish them easily. This is a quality that makes them easy to admonish. Friends, these are the qualities that make them easy to admonish. And thinking about that, actually, if you're not a stream winner, you should probably be okay to relinquish your views, at least like hold them very lightly. If you are a stream winner and somebody admonishes you, you're probably going to take it, like shrug your shoulders. Yeah, okay. All right. Never mind. Like maybe there's some truth, maybe not. But anyway, you kind of take it very lightly, and also don't take it personally, right? This is a problem, isn't it, when we take it personally? Yeah, I'll keep reading and then I'll come to the questions again, okay? Friends, these are the qualities that make one easy to admonish. Do you want to read the last part?
Or do you want to say and do the questions?
I would like to
first?
finish reading it actually and then
Okay.
come to the question because we've got another page. Like we've got this.
Yeah,
Would you like to read
okay.
that part? Just
This
read it
will
straight
take-
through, I think.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
from number 6.
So until
We
the
can just
end.
listen and then
Okay, so
have discussion.
now, friend, I have to change this to. I
yes.
have to remember
Don't
words
worry.
that you change.
Don't
okay?
worry about it. I just try and make it gender
Okay.
neutral or inclusive.
Now, friends, a person ought to infer about himself in the following way. A person with evil wishes and dominated by evil wishes is displeasing and disagreeable to me. If I were to have evil wishes and be dominated by evil wishes, I would be displeasing and disagreeable to others. So a person who knows this should arouse his mind thus: I shall not have evil wishes and be dominated by evil wishes. A person who lauds himself and disparages others. ... So he goes through the whole list again, but abbreviates it. A person who adheres to his own views, holds on to them tenaciously, and relinquishes them with difficulty is displeasing and disagreeable to me. If I were to adhere to my own views, hold on to them tenaciously, and relinquish them with difficulty, I would be displeasing and disagreeable to others. A person who knows this should arouse his mind thus: I shall not adhere to my own views, hold on to them tenaciously, and I shall relinquish them easily. Now, friends, a person should review himself thus: do I have evil wishes? And am I dominated by evil wishes? If, when he reviews them, if they review themselves thus, they know, I have evil wishes. I am dominated by evil wishes. Then they should make an effort to abandon those evil, unwholesome states. But if, when they review themselves, they know, I have no evil wishes, I am not dominated by evil wishes, then he can abide happy and glad, or then they can abide happy and glad, training day and night in wholesome states. Again, a person should review themselves thus: do I praise myself and disparage others? Again, so he goes through the whole list again. Do I adhere to my own views, hold on to them tenaciously, and relinquish them with difficulty? If, when they review themselves, they know, I adhere to my own views, then they should make an effort to abandon those evil and wholesome states. But if, when they review themselves, they know, I do not adhere to my own views, then they can abide happy and glad, training day and night in wholesome states. Friends, when a person reviews themselves thus, if they see that these evil and wholesome states are not all abandoned in them, then they should make an effort to abandon them all. But if, when they review themselves thus, they see that they are all abandoned in themselves, then they can abide happy and glad, training day and night in wholesome states. Just as when a woman or a man or other person, young, youthful, fond of ornaments, on viewing the image of their face in a clear, bright mirror or in a basin of clear water, sees a smudge or blemish on it, they make an effort to remove it. But if they see no smudge or blemish on it, they become glad thus: it's a gain for me that it's clean. So too, when a person reviews themselves thus, then they can abide happy and glad, training day and night in wholesome states. That is what the Venerable Mahamoggallana said, and the community was satisfied and delighted in the Venerable Mahamoggallana's words.
Oh, wow, beautiful. Any comment you want to make on it first?
Yes, so this is basically the training. So, what a teacher does for is to admonish in order to help somebody to see. It's like, hey, there you have a smudge. There you have something that is not clean, that you, on your beautiful, bright mind, there's some dirt there, so you can wipe it off. You have this chance to wipe it off, and instead people are like, no, I don't have any dirt. I'm fine. I'm so. But if we regard that was that the other perception of like, oh, this person is trying to show me where I can improve in the Dhamma, where I can, when I let go of that, be actually much happier. Then that changes a bit the perception of how we look at things, and it makes it much easier. And we start to look at ourselves as like, oh, how is this? How is that? It's like, do I have any anger? Do I have any negative states? Is there something that I can let go of?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like the part which says, when other people are angry and displeased or whatever it was, then that makes them disagreeable to me. So if I'm angry and displeased, then that will make me disagreeable to others. This is very good, isn't it? Because like how to develop empathy, how to train yourself in empathy. Think about what it's like to be on the other side of it. Would that be nice for you?
So you also don't react when another person is angry with you, and you just see it's like, oh, this person's suffering, and I don't need to react to that myself in any negative way.
Big topic. So we got a couple of comments in the chat, which I'll come to, and then if there's anything else in the room, we've got time for that as well. Wow, we can do a whole sutta in one sutta discussion. This is
you
great.
Normally don't.
No, not that long actually. Yeah, but a lot of it was repetition, but it's great. I think the dynamic is good, because we're talking and getting. I feel it's very nice to be here with you, and to kind of have some in discussion as well.
Yeah,
it's different because if it's on the Zoom, it's wonderful, but it's a little bit more like Q&A.
Yeah.
But this way, it's a bit more live. I think that often people can be totally rejecting of any admonishment, even get very angry, but then they go away and think about it. That's certainly happened a lot in our family.
Was there anyone above that? Because
No.
I noticed. Okay, you already saw that. Okay.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it? We have to give them time sometimes, time and space to think about things. I mean, it's interesting because sometimes with Ajahn Brahma, I say things that, he's like, no. And, but what I do know about him is that I'm not saying he's stubborn. Well, he is, but he knows he is, but not in a bad way. But he'll go away and think about it. And if there's nothing in what I say, fine, nothing will change. But if there's something in it, and it's usually about women's place in the Sangha, he'll show that he's thought about it, and he'll change, or he'll do something that shows me he's thought about it. Like something very concrete, because that's the way he expresses kind of care, is by doing something. It's like what he gives.
And I think also from monastic, my own experience once with a senior monastic who was basically admonished by a layperson and thought about it and then apologized to that layperson and very humbly said that his conduct was not befitting of a monk. And he asked for forgiveness. So, it's important that we keep those things in mind, that we don't go like, oh, I'm the senior monastic, I'm always right.
Yeah, that's right. And actually, it's, that's one of the reasons I trust Ajahn Brahm, because he will listen. I always think that. It's not that he always agrees, but he'll listen. And it's that willingness to take the admonishment, or it's not even admonishment, right? It's more like, I express my experience and I want him to hear it and understand that there's some validity in it, and he listens. He might not change overnight, but he listens. I'll come to you after the next chat, because we go just in order. So a reflection. I find it helpful to remember that this is a monastic addressing others, so we can assume they, by the way, he or she or they are speaking from a point of reacting to someone who is using right speech. Well, just because you're a monastic doesn't mean you do use right speech, actually.
Well, in this case, it's Mahamoggallana. So.
Yeah, but he's only instructing them.
I
don't think it necessarily assumes that, actually. I think it's saying that it's the trainee's job to take on the admonishment, whether or not it's coming skillfully, actually. Actually, that's your job, not to say, well, they didn't tell me in the way I wanted them to tell me. And that's your own personal work. But it's not for another person to say, I won't hear it because you didn't say it right, if you know what I mean. Even if they say it wrongly, I think you can still sort of, is there anything right in it? And if not, and if you think they were using wrong speech and they were full of anger, then maybe they were wrong, you know. But it's still our job to reflect on it, I would say.
So if somebody addresses you, tries to admonish you with anger, that's usually not going to work, because you're not going to take it in. You're either going to be upset yourself and you're just hearing the anger, you're not hearing the words. So
he's right. But I don't think this is addressing that, actually. That's my personal feeling about this sutta.
Yeah.
But of course, there's many suttas that say how we should give admonishment. And the first one is make sure it's coming from the mind of love and kindness and using gentle words. And it's the right time and it's beneficial and it's true. Yeah. But I still think in training, whether or not you think it's coming from the right place, you should be in anything, actually. Like, I mean, for myself too, even if somebody says something with irritation, I still definitely would look in myself and say, is there something to that? I wouldn't just say, well, they were irritated, they're wrong, you know. There might be something. So as to distinguish between being admonished and being verbally abused. Okay, yeah, absolutely. This is really important. I'll keep reading because this is a different nuance now. With our reactions, it might be helpful to reflect if the person addressing us is using right speech or intending to, so as to distinguish between being admonished and being verbally abused, to use an extreme example, which is all too common. If right speech is used, then this is a good indication to take an extra good look at our reactions if we become angry, etc. Of course, we should also look at our reactions if the other doesn't use right speech, but I'm finding this a useful point to take into account. Excellent. Yes, so we're on totally the same page, but it's really important that you brought in the distinction between admonition and verbal abuse. Because if it is a case of verbal abuse, I mean, of course, we have to still see is that valid and relevant, in the sense that, I mean, more to sort of try to understand that it is their problem, actually. It's more the other way around. It's more like, this is actually abuse, so I don't want to take this on, right? I don't want to take this on. Because unfortunately, when we're abused too often, we think that we've done the wrong thing. I mean, this is the problem with abuse. When you're abused, you actually do internalize that to the extent that you stay in abusive situations. So I think you have to really see that if it's abuse, you recognize that this is not about you and that you didn't deserve it. Nobody ever deserves it, right? It's just wrong. And then to ideally get some space if you possibly can. And if you're in an abusive situation long term, it is going to affect you. It's going to bring you down. It's going to create a whole lot of suffering for yourself. So to try to get some perspective on what's appropriate and what's not, talk to your friends, you know, ask, is this the normal way that somebody should talk to me? It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel wholesome, you know, it feels manipulative or whatever it might be, and just try and gauge whether this is normal, because unfortunately sometimes we become accustomed to it and we don't know we're in an abusive situation. We actually think there really is something wrong with us, you know. This is one of the problems. So yeah, absolutely. And in that sense, I don't think he's talking to monks who are likely to abuse their disciples, right? But they're certainly not always going to say things nicely. I mean, there's a lot of very strong language in monasteries. You know, most monasteries are pretty strict, and it'll be like, do. You know, I mean, this is the norm, actually. From some of the Thai forest masters are known to be fierce. I mean, scary, you know. And if the disciples run away, the disciples run away. I'm not saying it's good.
This book that Ajahn Brahm wrote together with this Chan master.
Yeah.
I forgot the name. What was
I know the book. Falling or flying,
something like that. And I was, of course, Ajahn Brahm's story I already knew, but I was really fascinated by this, the training within the Chan monasteries, which was incredibly harsh, that I would sort of classify as abuse in times, actually. But
and I think it's tricky, isn't it? Because sometimes it might border on abuse. So yeah, if it's not working for you, I want to get through all the comments, so we'll go a little bit quicker now to try and include everyone. We've got so many messages. Sometimes when I reflect on some criticism, I start to question my own intentions. And become unsure if I really had pure intentions. I was just ignorant to my motivations and have a hard time coming to a definite conclusion. Wonder if you have any advice on how to get more clarity in these cases. Yeah, that's a good question, and it's difficult sometimes. I think maybe you have to know your own character a little bit. I do think that some types of character are more likely to think, oh, it must be me that's done something wrong. I immediately do that. I think, oh no, what have I done? I've been bad. I've done the wrong thing. Oh, I deserve it or something. It's tricky. I mean, it does come with practice and with knowing yourself better. You understand your intentions. You know when there was no harmful intention. However, sometimes you can still hurt people even with a good intention. So I think it's still worth apologizing if you've been a little rough or a little sharp or impatient or something like this. And how do you know? I wonder if you have any of us just ignorant about real motivations. Motivations are always mixed. I mean, you're not going to have pure 100% intentions. But if it's just outright criticism all the time and you're being made to question your intentions again and again, I think it's probably a little too harsh. I think we criticize each other too much. Remember, this is talking about admonition, which means inviting instruction and exhortation more than outright criticism. So I think really taking refuge in your own goodness, practicing loving kindness, purifying your motivations, you know, the more you practice loving kindness, compassion, other kinds of wholesome cultivations of the mind, the more you actually do know and have confidence that you're coming from a wholesome place most of the time. You can't be perfect though. And that's no reason to endure constant criticism. Yeah. I really want to invite admonishment since I stayed recently and you got to know me a bit, Venerable. Please admonish me as you see fit. Okay. Where's the stick? How could anyone admonish Tristan? Okay. But in a good way, right? I welcome the opportunity for growth and feel much trust in your feedback. Bless you. Well, opportunity for growth and trust in your feedback. To be very this is genuine now, to be very sorry if it's too personal publicly, to be very respectful of what feels nourishing for you, incredibly respectful to what feels emotionally nourishing for you, especially if you would train in a community where that's not necessarily the main quality that is that is cultivated. And if you are to train as a monk, to please, as I said, when you're here, continue to seek the experience, to hear the experience, to listen to the experience of bhikkhunis and other people in the Sangha who might be more marginalized than monks, to care about that, to be an ally, to actually speak out if you can, if you see kind of derogatory language being used towards members of the LGBTQI plus community or bhikkhunis or anything like that, or women in general. You can't do it all the time, but when you feel it's relevant, be a good friend to your fellow monks, offer the wonderful emotional intelligence that you have to support your fellow monks and trainees, and be very sensitive to whether it's nurturing for you, I would say. And also physically, to be very, very, if you need to have something for your gastric condition, just seek the approval of Ajahn Brahman and seek the input. Go straight to the teachers you trust and seek their input. Yeah, but I'm sure we can continue to have a very beautiful, mutually supportive friendship. And I also invite your admonition if ever you feel able to share. So thank you for the question. It's very sweet. Yeah, very, very sweet. Oh my goodness, we got 5 more messages. Wow. Okay. It occurs to me that if you're learning a skill, it's easy to accept admonishment. When you take it personally, e.g. if your music teacher says you played the wrong chord there, play this one instead. Oh, sorry, why take it personally if your music teacher says you played the wrong chord, play this one instead. Perhaps viewing living as a skill to be learned, just like music, bricklaying, or whatever else, might keep the sense of self from resisting reproval. Yeah, that's a good one. And I would just like to say one thing. I will let you say more on it, but something popped into my mind that I think is quite important is that one of the reasons a sense of self doesn't come out there is because you played the wrong chord is very different from saying you're hopeless at piano. So it's about what you've done rather than who you are. And it's when somebody says you're so impatient rather than, oh, I'm noticing that some impatience is arising that I'm finding is making me anxious or is causing me to feel some agitation. That's very different. You know, or even, you know, I'm noticing some impatience, like that I sense there's some impatience in you or something. I'm not really great with this language. Is that your experience? Or would you like to take a break or something like that, you know? No, basically admonishing or giving feedback on the behavior rather than making it, you are so such and such.
Yeah.
This is a massive, massive difference because then, of course, the sense of self gets upset, mainly because we think we're going to be rejected or we think that something bad about us, we go into shame or we feel, I don't know, we just feel hurt, right? Because we feel that's all they see in us at that time. If you say you're an angry person, you're not seeing the kindness, the beauty, the compassion in that person at that time. You've just labeled them. So, yeah, I mean, it's great if we can see life as a skill to be learned, but I think it's also, we can help each other with that by the language we choose. What I meant by I'm not so skilled in this is it's a kind of nonviolent communication, which you've trained in, actually.
Well, not really.
Quite well. I've been quite inspired. You've written me some emails sometimes.
Yeah, no, it's the difference between yeah, like you said, labeling a person as like you're this kind of person, or saying, oh, you just made a mistake or you've done something. That's just that you're labeling the action rather than the person, and there's a huge difference in that, because if somebody hears often enough, oh, you're worthless, then they probably won't succeed in life. If like you start with a child and mother always tells them, oh, you're worthless, then they're not particularly going to, there might be a very intelligent and gifted child, they're not going to succeed because they think of themselves as that way. But if mother says like, oh, you not cleaned your room and that's not a good thing to do, for instance, that's a very different thing.
We got 5 minutes, and I always like to. No, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. We like. Oh, didn't I not come to you? I'm so sorry.
No.
Sorry, Chi. Yeah, I was just so kind of like seeing more and more messages. Please.
Oh, but we can also maybe do it.
We'll include you. No. I'd like to have you included.
I was thinking actually having clear roles in this kind of situation helps a lot.
Yeah.
I guess when I'm thinking of like experiences in life, you know, you get a lot of aunties telling you how to do things and instructions from many people who maybe consider themselves your seniors or in the right place to give you advice. And I can say for myself, if I'd taken a lot of that advice, I wouldn't be where I am. You know, get married, have kids. A woman should carry themselves this way. Oh, you know, you need to have your hair like this. So you can get a lot of admonishment, which is not very coming from wisdom.
That's really true. Yeah, I guess maybe what it's saying around accepting admonishment is not necessarily follow it, but at least receive it, and then use your own discernment to see whether it's helpful for you. I think for me, that's how I see it, which is why when that person said to me, you are so such and such for saying chock or whatever, it was like quite easy because I knew that that wasn't true, that I'd said it badly or anything. I actually said it like, all right, love, like dear. So I could kind of say, okay, is that helpful for me or not? No, but I didn't need to kind of push back. I think that was the thing. I could just, yeah. I mean, I did push back with my mom all my teens, and it must have been horrible because I was like, I will not do what you say, and this kind of thing. But yeah, you're quite right. I mean, we have to take the admonishment or instruction that is somehow in line, at least with our values, right? At least with our values. So yeah, but it's a good point about roles as well. That's an interesting one.
Training you, and this is who the admonishment is coming from, and you're their student. I think it's feels much safer space when that is clear.
It does, doesn't it? And even
that's also where the respect comes in that we talked about earlier. It's like if you like respect this teacher and it's somebody that you feel that you can learn from, it's just much easier to accept admonishment from that person. And if it's somebody that you feel that you can't learn from or is sending you in the wrong direction, that's not right for you, then you can tell, oh, well, thank you, and just not do it.
Right. And maybe the context, you see, the context is like between monastic and trainee who've already signed up to be in that role. So they've already chosen the place and the teacher and all the rest. So I think, you know, obviously the Buddha says it's so important to choose wisely, not perfect people, because you never get
and
it.
you don't choose your aunties.
2 minutes now. 2 minutes for 3 or 4 more questions, because I really like to finish them. So I'll just run quickly. And sorry if I don't have much feedback. I'll just do a quick. But thanks for that. I think it's really helpful. And also about the roles, because they might change. Like in one project, someone else might be in charge in different ways. So then it wouldn't be right for even a senior person to kind of insist if you've delegated. I've been admonished in a community for pushback. I find it important to ask lots of questions when someone gives directions. For example, if they give rules on how to communicate what others in the community don't have to follow. For example, if they give me specific rules on how to communicate that others don't have to follow, do you have any feedback or shared experience? Very difficult when it's an abstract example that I don't know about. It might be worth asking how it might help you to follow that admonishment. How might that, what benefit do they perceive in giving you that admonishment, so you understand the reason for it potentially? Because it seems like there's some confusion there around why are you getting a rule that somebody else doesn't have. So maybe it's for your own benefit or for somebody else's benefit, but maybe you need more clarity, because otherwise, of course, that would create confusion. I think maybe that's my main suggestion there, to just ask, maybe take longer with the person, see if you can get an interview, a separate interview to ask, and to maybe say why it's sometimes confusing for you and that you really want to take this on, but it'd just help you if you could understand why and how that could potentially be of benefit, perhaps. Maybe get some clarity. Yeah, Falling is Flying is the name of the book. Yeah, thanks for that. That was the kindest admonishment imaginable. How we speak our truths. I've often thought that Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication exactly is a perfect practical adjunct to the Buddha's practice and living. Indeed, his approach drew on Buddhist insights. Absolutely, and that was what I was commending Venerable Vimala on practicing. And you, did you receive the admonition?
More like compliment rather than admonishment. Yes, I did.
Excellent. That's an excellent question. How do you see this benefiting me? That's very helpful. Excellent. Because there will be some benefit, I should think, if it's coming from a good place.
Yeah.
But if you're not sure of that, not trusting that, then that could be very helpful. Excellent. I'm glad that may have helped. So I'll hand over to Manori just for the last couple of minutes. Thank you, Manori.
Yeah, thank you very much, both Venerables, and we are so grateful that we got 2 bhikkhunis instead of 1, like 2 for 1 today.
Yes.
And so much of lovely discussion on a very important topic. So I just want to remind you about the dana, the generosity, a few words about it. So giving, as you know, develops wholesome qualities that form the foundation of our Dhamma practice. It is not only giving, it benefits us as well. And we can practice it and develop ourselves. So how can we practice generosity in this context with Anukampa? We've got few ways. One-time donation you can do. You can go to our website in that link, and you can either give by bank transfers, PayPal, or SumUp. And if you are able, you can do a regular donation through banking, or you can do a standing orders, or else if you're not financially able. When I say donations, any amount is very gratefully received. So when so many people give small amounts, that makes a big amount, and we can maintain all these teachings with and look after the venerables, and look after the future of Anukampa with your support. So if you're not financially able, there are so many other ways as well. You can volunteer, and just drop an email to team@anukampa.org if you have any useful skills that you want to share with Anukampa. And you can provide meals to the monastics, cooked meals, hot meals, or even via delivery. You can send groceries, which is quite helpful these days. So a volunteer can do the grocery shopping. The gift cards is good as well. And there is a needed items list on the website. So there are so many ways to get involved. And if you haven't, please subscribe to the newsletter. You'll get all the details of the upcoming events coming to your email. Thanks to Venerable Chanda. She's the one who's doing all the hard work. We don't have a huge group and the teams and teams of people behind. It's very thin, but it's done with all good intentions and a lot of hard labor from Venerable Chanda. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manoi. And I do have some very wonderful people helping, and not full time, but it's getting there. I have people here on the ground now, and generally I feel a lot more supported and nurtured than I used to. So yeah, and the hard work is very much worth it when we start to see these results. And yeah, especially when people come and stay and people get involved in various ways. So thank you all for being there. And also, yeah, the main events we have coming up now, I think, are basically, we have a couple of day retreats. So one is tomorrow. We actually still have space on it if you want to just turn up tomorrow, if you happen to be anywhere nearby. Me and Venerable Vimala will be doing that. And I think you'll be doing a bit more than me tomorrow. At least the Dhamma reflection. Can't wait.
I did have some things to thought about it. Yeah.
Can't wait. Oh, wonderful. And then, yeah, Sunday is very special because Chi will take her Anagarika precepts and formally join this community. You're already joined, but now you're joining as a trainee, which is heartwarming and a great privilege and a great learning for us both. We're on a journey together, and we're on a journey as a community, and you have all the support from myself and everyone else here. Yeah. And I know your family too. They're going to be here. So those who can attend, thank you for coming. We unfortunately can't accept anyone else at this point because our drive will be full and there's no parking anywhere else nearby. So, but those who can come, wonderful. You're getting blessings sent to you from the chat, from Shirley. And the next most important thing would be Ajahn Brahm's tour, which is happening in June. So if you haven't signed up for the online retreat or the weekend retreat, you've still got a chance. If you can't afford it for any reason, just let us know. By the way, Chi is CHIE. So just so you know. But soon it will be Anagarika Chi. And yeah, there's another day retreat in May. I think we haven't actually opened registration for that. But anyway, you can all come. I'm sure you'll all fit. So take care, everybody. And metta tomorrow. Metta meditation tomorrow morning. Yay. 9 o'clock. BST. Thanks, Joseph. BST. So we can unmute you now and wave goodbye. And if you all want to come and wave goodbye, you're welcome as well. You want to come into the picture? Actually, I can turn the camera around.